In this chapter, Richard Hughes gives us important aspects which are discussed by Dr. Hahnemann in various editions of Organon of Medicine. So the Organon of Medicine first edition, the name was the Organon of Rational Art of Healing. All of us know what was written. Gallard's poem was written on it. What is Gallard's poem and what is the significance of this poem? The truth we mortals need, us blessed to make and keep, the all white slightly covered over, but did not bury deep. So what is the meaning of this? Gallard's poem meaning is for Dr. Hahnemann that to propagate the truth which existed around us. It can't be hidden for a long time. It's a blessing to humanity. And Dr. Hahnemann guided his troops, that is his disciples. And this will acquire Dr. Hahnemann a brilliant triumph. And God bless you, my son. So this Gallard's poem, this poem written by the poet Gallard, hence called as Gallard's poem. So let's see further that what is the correlation of this Gallard's poem. That we see in the history, the new discoveries are always opposed. The persons who have made great discoveries were punished and even given death sentences. Dr. Hahnemann wants to propagate the truth. He was the sole person who has discovered the truth. What is that truth which is discovered? Is the law of similars. So he successfully propagated the truth of his new discovery of law of similars. Hippocrates knew the law before Dr. Hahnemann. But Dr. Hahnemann did this new discovery, and that is the blessings to humanity. The new discovery of law of similars was based on truthful principles. The disciples of Dr. Hahnemann further propagated homeopathy, which is based on law of similars. So what are the 3 points of business of physician for cure? All of us know it's mentioned in aphorism number 71. Is to acquire the knowledge of disease is the first point of business of physician. And how does he acquire the knowledge of disease? By the procedure of case taking. The detailed guidelines are given by Dr. Hahnemann. Second point is what? To acquire the knowledge of medicines. How to acquire the knowledge? Is by the procedure of drug proving on healthy human beings. The detailed guidelines are given by Dr. Hahnemann. Judicious employment of medicines according to the rules of postology, second prescription and remedy reaction is the third point of business of physician. So how do we acquire this knowledge? How do a physician can do the judicious employment of medicines? When he gets the knowledge, when he masters the rules of postology, second prescription, remedy reactions, etc. So let's understand the first point, that is phenomenon of disease. The physician understands by case taking, and then by case taking he forms the totality of symptoms. This is given in aphorism number 4, 5 and 7. So let's see what is the reference of aphorism 4, 5 and 7. Dr. Henneman concluded that sum total of symptoms of patient is the only curative indication which physician can discover with respect to. So Dr. Henneman concluded that the sum total of symptoms of patient is the only curative indication which physician can discover with respect to the study of patient by case taking. This is called as the totality of symptoms. Aphorism number 4 gives us the preserver of health. What is the concept of preserver of health? Who is preserver of health? Dr. Henneman tells us physician is preserver of health when he knows the things that derange health and how to remove them from persons in health. That means he should understand the causes of disease, the causes of derangement of health. So, how to remove them from persons in health? So, how he can remove the causes from persons in health? That is, how he can prevent the disease in healthy persons who still not have got any disease. Then he is called as preserver of health. Aphorism number 5 gives us the causes of diseases, that is the fundamental cause. That is the greatest discovery of Dr. Henneman, that the fundamental cause, that is the myasms, are the cause of chronic disease. So myasms, the fundamental cause of chronic disease. These are the 3 key points where the scope of homeopathy is maximum. So it is the second most important discovery by Dr. Henneman after the law of similars. Aphorism number 7 describes causa occasionalis, that is the exciting and maintaining causes of diseases. And of course, it also describes the totality of symptoms. So, disease is known by the physician by forming totality of symptoms. Dr. Henneman said, totality of symptom is the sum of the sufferings of the patient who feels the morbid symptoms, that is the phenomena of disease, and exhibits itself, which is the outwardly reflected picture of the internal deranged vital force. It is incorrect to say that symptoms of morbid changes are not correlated. So, what is totality of symptom? It is the sum of the sufferings of the patient. So, it's a collection of all the symptoms of the sufferings of the patient. So, it's a collection of the morbid symptoms, that is the phenomena of disease. And how does this phenomena of disease is known by the physician? That the symptoms are the only important aspect for the choice of the simillimum, and symptoms reflect the deranged vital force. So the symptoms reflect picture of internal deranged vital force. And it is incorrect to say that symptoms of morbid changes are not correlated. So they are related with each other. Totality of symptoms contains the causes, modalities, general and particular symptoms. So totality of symptoms is inclusive of patient symptoms and disease symptoms. So let's understand what are patient symptoms. Patient symptoms are the general sensations and general modalities. So patient symptoms are the general sensations, general modalities and physical general symptoms. Disease symptoms are of organ pathology. Homeopathy is blamed that it ignores the pathology. So totality of symptoms includes patient symptoms and disease symptoms. Patient symptoms are the general symptoms, physical generals and also inclusive of mental general symptoms. Disease symptoms are of the organ pathology. Homeopathy is blamed that it ignores the pathology while selection of the simillimum. So let's see how to handle this point, that we no longer accept this, that homeopathy ignores the pathology. So let's see further. Symptoms are of two types, general and particular symptoms. General symptoms represent the beginning of disease. They are mental generals and physical generals. So, they are invisible, not seen, but felt by the patient and found by physician by case taking. So, homeopathy has its primary focus in understanding the phenomena of disease with respect to the beginning of the disease. And the beginning of disease means the evolution of disease. It is reflected first by abnormal mental generals and physical generals, and they are invisible. They are only felt by patient. So physician should have that subjectivity, sensitivity to understand these invisible symptoms of patient, who will be the patient will be narrating these symptoms to physician, and that will be the skillful art of the physician to find out these invisible symptoms. Particular symptoms represent the symptoms of morbid pathology, of organ pathology. So, these particular symptoms of morbid pathology of organs are the ultimates of disease. They are pathological symptoms. So here we understand that the disease during its course of evolution, first there are invisible symptoms and later there is development of visible pathology. So homeopathy focuses its administration of remedy to cure these phenomena of the disease by selection of simillimum, which is based on this first the general symptoms. So it covers the particular symptoms also in formation of totality, but the primary focus is on these general symptoms which are seen in the beginning of disease. So we no longer accept that homeopathy ignores the pathology. So we are considering this pathology with respect to the first beginnings of this organ pathology. So there are two aspects, the beginning of the disease, which is seen in the symptoms of the general symptoms, and the ultimates of disease are the pathological symptoms. So here we understand the disease phenomena is first in the general symptoms and they are invisible. During the course of time, these symptoms then further are affecting the organs, and the particular symptoms of organ pathology are developed, and they are usually visible symptoms. So, in homeopathy, the remedies can be applied at this stage when the disease has started its beginnings, before the pathology has developed. Mental generals and physical generals are the indications for selection of remedy. Homeopathy can arrest the pathology. Homeopathy cures the pathology. Homeopathy cures the patient, as treatment is based on his primary general symptoms, that is mental generals and physical generals. What happens in antipathy? It causes secondary counteraction. So the antipathic medicines result in secondary counteraction. So if patient is having constipation, the medicine is given which produces diarrhea. So it produces counteraction. It first extinguishes the morbid symptoms, but then they recur back. This is secondary counteraction, and it does not cure the disease, neither patient. It just temporarily palliates its symptoms. In homeopathy, the prescription is for the sick stomach, for congestive brain, but it results into secondary curative action. So, for example, for sick stomach, a PCAC is given. For congestive brain disorders, opium is prescribed. So these are the examples given in the chapter. This silences the internal morbid disease. So minimum dose. So the similar remedy is given, and it is given in the minimum dose. Currently, situation is to prevent the aggravation caused by medicinal dose. So doses were reduced to minimum dose. So Dr. Henneman advocates the use of minimum dose to avoid any side effects, to avoid any aggravations. Knowledge of medicine, that is acquired by the process of or the experiment of drug proving done on healthy human beings. Knowledge of medicines is acquired by drug proving. In homeopathy, all of us, we know that drug proving is done on healthy human beings to know the subjective symptoms, to know the general symptoms. We already saw the importance of general symptoms in previous slides, as general symptoms are representing the beginning of disease, and the administration of similimum is first based on general symptoms. Recording of symptoms of the provers is done of functional type and sensations felt by the provers. Disease begins with the altered sensations and functions that we already saw. Action of homeopathic medicines. So, these symptoms are the sensations, and functions are the mental generals and physical generals. They are due to the action of vital force, which is energy in dynamic form. So these sensations are felt because of the functioning of vital force. Vital energy gives life to the man. These mental generals and physical generals are the individualizing symptoms of the patient. Homeopathic medicines act on provers and patients. So, provers give us the symptoms which is recorded as materia medica. And when patients comes with the morbid symptoms, it's matched with the symptoms from materia medica. So, application of law of similars is there in homeopathy. As just now I said that the medicine is given to the patient based on law of similars. Homeopathy brings the cure according to secondary curative action. The symptoms of patient are matched with the symptoms of medicines in the materia medica, where it has already listed the action of medicines on provers, and the exact similimum is prescribed in homeopathy. And this is the application of law of similars. Homeopathic remedies are deep acting remedies which cure the underlying miasm. Superficial remedies have action for short duration. Dr. Hahnemann observed that in patients, cutaneous eruptions are treated with various ointments. The most common were scabies eruptions, and the eruptions were removed locally. So the observations of Dr. Hahnemann, Dr. Richard Hughes' focus is that Dr. Hahnemann had observed that in patients with cutaneous eruptions were commonly treated with various ointments. The most common symptoms at Hahnemann's time were the scabies eruptions. The eruptions were removed locally. Dr. Hahnemann came with his famous SORA theory. Dr. Hahnemann propagated SORA theory, and myasm is the cause of chronic disease. He gave this name myasm to the cause of chronic diseases. SORA is the most pernicious, most harmful and fundamental cause of chronic diseases of mankind. So that is about the SORA theory, which is mentioned by Dr. Richard Hughes in this chapter. So the main important points are Dr. Hahnemann propagated SORA theory. He considered miasm as the cause of chronic disease. SORA is the most pernicious fundamental cause of chronic disease of mankind. So Dr. Hahnemann considered miasms as the fundamental cause of disease. I told you that this is the second most important discovery of Dr. Hahnemann after the law of similars. So what are miasms? Miasms are dynamic in nature. They are the dynamic cause of the disease. They have tendency to produce diseases. They are dynamic disease producing power. In 1816, Dr. Hahnemann has written on scabies. So, relation of SORA with scabies. This is a specific miasmatic disorder. The contagion, that is the infection, gives rise to vesicle. There is tremendous itch. So, what is the name given by Dr. Hahnemann to itch is SORA. So, local ointment removes the vesicle, but disease is driven internal. SORA is internal itch, cause of chronic disease. So, SORA is nothing but the fundamental cause of chronic disease. So, chronic diseases which are seen, if seen externally, then also there is first internal development. So, without internal development, the chronic disease is not seen. There is complete development within the organism first. This is called as internal development. That is the origin of chronic disease. This is the name given as myasm, the origin of chronic disease, the cause of chronic disease. Third point of business of physician is judicious employment of medicines. Dr. Hahnemann emphasized first on reduction of a dose. Dr. Hahnemann emphasized further on dynamization of these medicines, and he developed the process of potentization. Very scientific process of potentization, that is trituration and succussion. So what is potentization? He developed succussion and trituration. There is an increase in medicinal power which was hidden otherwise. The hidden power is liberated, which is the curative power. This is true astonishing power, the medicinal spirit. That's considered by Dr. Richard Hughes for what? The power which is liberated from the medicines after potentization. The name given is the medicinal spirit. Dr. Hahnemann emphasized on postology. In aphorism 276, he described postology. Dr. Hahnemann has 12,000 practitioners in homeopathy. He proved aconite, belladonna, rust ox, prionia, nux vomica, silica, sulfur, the most deep acting remedy, the prominent antisoric remedy. These remedies played glorious role in robbing acute diseases and chronic diseases of their hopelessness. And that was the discussion about the organon concluded by Dr. Richard Hughes. Thank you.